Dear colleagues, dear experts, dear participants, welcome to UNESCO IIT and Central China Normal University online webinar on innovations in practice, child and teacher-focused approaches. This webinar is a part of our annual of our regular online webinars, which are focused on digital technologies in education. I need to say that persons with disabilities remain among the most marginalized populations worldwide, particularly in education systems across low and middle income countries. And UNESCO pays much attention to this issue to support equity and equality in education, as well as access to education for all. Today's webinar will be focused on persons with autism, but not only. And we will have a very, focused program, focused agenda, which will contain innovative practices focusing on learners and teachers, as well as panel discussions with questions and answers. So I would like to ask you to be active during our webinar and to provide questions in our chat. And now let me open the official part of the webinar and introduce to you Director of the UNESCO Institute for Information Technologies in Education, Dr. Tao Zhan. Tao Zhan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. Dear experts, participants, colleagues, and friends, welcome to today's webinar. It's already winter in Moscow. It's rather cold outside. However, being together with you, we feel warm and encouraged, as the topic is so critical. And I would like to express our appreciation for your participation, for your engagement, and for your contribution to disability inclusion. It's a very challenging, however, very important issue nowadays, especially at the age of AI. And as my colleague Natalia just said, this webinar is co-organized, and the next one as well, by UNESCO Institute IITE and the Central China Normal University, represented today by Professor Jingying Chen. And the Central China Normal is a close collaboration partner with IITE. We are very proud of this partnership. And the university, Central China Normal University, is a leading university in education research and teacher education. And the university also hosts a state lab, a national lab on digital learning, digital technologies in education. I had the honor and pleasure visited the lab and the team led by Professor Jingying early this year. I want to say I was so much impressed by their work, and the lab itself equipped with fancy AI tools and the equipments. So it's an excellent partnership, and we hope we can continue this collaboration for many years to come. And I also would like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. May, who leads this research as an outcome of the joint program, engaging different experts, outstanding experts from different regions and different sectors, both from research and the practical sector, focusing on how ICT and AI can support children with autism and more issues. So I want to say that inclusion, and especially disability inclusion, is a priority of UNESCO's strategy. We always focus on the goal of human-centered, and the ethical use of AI and digital technology. And I also want to say that in practice, this approach must be oriented and led by research, by the evidence-based research. Is so important. Only when we have human-centered, the value of the transformation, and research-oriented approach, we can ensure the application of AI and the digital technologies in education, in particularly in this area of disability inclusion, is so challenging and meaningful, and could demonstrate the power. But we need to be very careful. That's why we need research going ahead of the practice to lead the approach, the practice. So finally, I would like to say that IIT is very proud of our flagship on disability inclusion, covering different areas of disability inclusion. We have a team led by Ms. Natalia, with my colleague Janet and other colleagues. And we understand that we have a small team and limited resources. However, through working with all of you and all the participants, we reach the goal we shared and the mission we shared. I'm looking forward to listening to you and learning from you, and also many more collaboration with you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tao Zhan, for your empowering speech and welcome address to our participants. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to invite for a welcome address our partner, Professor Jing Chen, who is a chair of National Engineering Research Center for E-Learning from Central China Normal University, our big partner. Professor Chen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natalia, and thank Dr. Zhan. Dear colleagues, distinguished speakers and friends, good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for all joining us. It is my great pleasure to open this UNESCO and CCNU co-hosted webinar. Today's session is part of our joint collaboration project, and I would like to begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to UNESCO IITE for its continuous support. My heartfelt thanks go to Dr. Tao Zhan for his leadership, and to Natalia for her excellent coordination, and to Dr. May for her outstanding contributions that have shaped this webinar series. I would also like to briefly introduce our joint project, Empower AD, Enabling Inclusive Teaching and Learning through ICT and AI-Driven Solutions. This initiative addresses the global challenge of ensuring inclusive and equitable education for students with special educational needs by leveraging the power of AI and ICT. Together, we aim to develop, optimize, and disseminate AI-supported educational tools designed specifically for learners with disability and autism. The project spans early childhood care and education as well as K-12 settings, recognizing that early and continuous intervention is essential for improving learning outcomes for children with autism. At Central China Normal University, our Faculty of Artificial Intelligence in Education is committed to applying AI to solve real and pressing educational problems. In our work with children with autism, we observed that traditional assessment methods rely heavily on manual expert observation, approach that is time-consuming and difficult to scale. So, to address these limitations, our team developed AI-driven behavior sensing technologies that automatically capture children's attention, emotions, facial expressions, and movement patterns, making assessment more objective, efficient, and accessible. We also recognize that high-quality digital learning resources tailored for children with autism remain scarce. Therefore, we design human-AI interactive learning materials and adapting learning methods that enhance engagement and support individualized development. Our intelligent learning platform has already been adopted in many regions across China, contributing to more inclusive and equitable learning opportunities. I hope today's webinar will serve as a meaningful space for global exchange, bring together researchers, educators, technologists, and policymakers to share insights and explore how AI and CIT can advance inclusive for neurodiverse learners. Thank you once again for being here, and I wish everyone a productive and inspiring discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Chen. It's really encouraging to have the support of the Central China Normal University with all your experience. I also just want to mention that within this project, jointly with you and under the leadership of Dr. May, we are finalizing 2 publications, which will be available at our website, UNESCO IIT website, very soon. It's a collection of best practices and analytical report. Thank you so much,
That's great.
Professor Chen, for cooperation and for your encouraging speech. Thank you. And now let me introduce to you our expert, our leader of the project, Dr. May, who is representing University of Malta and also recently became an expert of UNESCO IIT. Dr. May, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natalia. I'm just sharing the presentation here. Okay, can you all see it? Thank you. Yes, okay. Okay, so this presentation is going to be a summary of quite a big research project that was carried out over the summer. What our main goal was to look into how AI and ICT can be used to support the inclusion of learners with autism, ADHD, and learning difficulties. And as you've already heard, this is the first of 2 webinars, and each webinar has a different focus. Today's focus is on actual products which have been used with children and teachers and how they have supported inclusion. And so what we're looking at is current landscape. I'm trying to turn the slide. Yeah, I've said this. As we've already heard, this is part of the Empower Ed project, which is a project to foster a global initiative leveraging AI capabilities to enhance the quality and accessibility of special education, particularly for children with autism. Although this particular research went a bit further, and we looked also at learning difficulties in ADHD. If we think about why this research is needed, and we have to start from there really, many children with neurodevelopmental differences remain excluded from meaningful participation in learning. And often enough, teachers lack training, they may lack tools, or they just may lack confidence. And the way things are moving right now, we would feel that AI and ICT can bridge these gaps if designed and implemented inclusively. So technology isn't about replacing inclusion, but it can be a major support in enabling it. If we think about the 3 groups of children that were being addressed in this research, 3 groups of children with different set of needs. We have autism, often enough having needs in the area of communication, their need maybe for predictability, and maybe also their need for sensory support. Then we have the group of children with ADHD who have regulation needs around organization, and needs around flexible learning. And then the 3rd group of children with learning difficulties, a need for accessible text, multimodal input, and possibly even extra time. Of course, barriers at the end of the day are similar for all 3. We may find limited tools. We may find that our teachers are a bit inflexible around the way that they teach, possibly teachers lacking training, and affordability of the tools. And this is something I will touch on again later. What did we do? In this piece of research, we combined a literature review with 10 expert interviews. We also have 23 global best practices. Our experts and contributors came from many different places: Europe, Australia, the US, Serbia, Qatar, Kazakhstan, Uganda, China, and others. And some of them are here with us today. Our case studies demonstrate inclusion through AAC, augmentative and alternative communication, robotics, AI literacy, and digital co-design. All of this we bring together for a final report, which we've just heard is going to be made available soon, where we've made recommendations across 6 Ps. And I am going to explain each of these to you: people, products, pedagogy, policy, place, and provision. Just to give you some background about this 6 Ps and 4 Cs framework, it starts off with WHO and their 5P framework for assistive technology. This was an initiative by WHO Gate some years back, and they would say that in order for us to address assistive technology needs, we need to look into 5 areas: people, products, provision, personnel, and policy. And we can kind of say that these 5 areas make up the ecosystem for successful assistive technology. In other words, products is one aspect. We also need to have policies in place. We need to have provision of service. We need to have trained personnel. And of course, people are in the center of all of this. Around 2020, 2019, the World Bank and EdTech Hub made an adaptation of this 5P framework specifically for EdTech. So they were looking at educational technology and the system that is required for it to be successful. They added pedagogy, which makes sense because we were talking about EdTech in schools. And this would reflect teaching and learning. And this resulted in a 6P framework. But they put the person on the outside as part of every other aspect. After my 10 interviews and case studies, we now have an expanded version of the 6P framework, because we've also added 4 cross-cutting dimensions. And those cross-cutting dimensions are capacity, co-creation, consistency, and conscience. And I've centered the learner as well, because here we're looking at children with disabilities, and we need to ensure that they are the center: the children, the educators, their families. So moving forward, right, this is our model here, right? We have people at the center: the child, our educators, the professionals, supported by the right products. And these products can be AI, ICT, and relating to this, of course, we have assistive technology. This is embedded in inclusive pedagogy, enabled by policy, grounded in place, and sustained through provision. Our 4 Cs cut across all of these: capacity, culture, collaboration, and conscience. These strengthen the Ps. They ensure equity, cultural fit, and ethical use. With the way AI is moving, ethics cannot be left out of this, and it needs to be strongly emphasized. And cultural fit continues to be an issue. This came up in the interviews in particular. So just to give you a brief definition of each P: people are the individuals involved, the learners, the families, the teachers, the therapists, educators. This determines whether technology truly supports inclusion. Their voices must guide all decisions, because every child, whether it's autism, whether it's dyslexia or ADHD, every child is different. So we must put the child first. The products themselves: digital tools, AI systems, assistive technologies, and mainstream devices, they must be accessible, appropriate, and adaptable for diverse learner needs. Pedagogy: here we're looking at inclusive teaching methods that ensure that technology enhances learning rather than becoming an add-on or a barrier. For policy, We need to have policies that create enabling environments for equitable, ethical, and sustainable use of AI and ICT across education systems. So it's not enough to say we have money to purchase products. We need to also have the policies in place to support their use. Place. This is moving now beyond school and physical places. We're talking about digital places now, online spaces, the socio-cultural learning environments which influence who can access technology and how effectively it's used. And another thing I want to add here is that place cannot be about school alone, not physical place, because these children go home, and home must be something we consider as well. Provision, the funding, the infrastructure, procurement, and ongoing things which determine what ongoing support, which determines whether inclusive technology benefits learners, all learners, and not just a few. And in my interviews, I came across huge disparities across the world, where some countries and some regions have access to these products and others have much less. And this was the same within the same country in some instances. Cross-cutting principles, these affect all 6 Ps. Capacity. Educators, families, and learners need training, confidence, and digital skills to use inclusive AI and ICT tools effectively and sustainably. Culture. The attitudes, the expectations, and digital habits within a school or system that shape whether AI and ICT tools are welcomed, trusted, and actually meaningfully used for inclusion. Collaboration. Active partnerships between learners, teachers, families, technologists, and policymakers are needed to co-design, implement, and refine inclusive technology solutions. Some of the most interesting best practices I heard came from people who were related to people who had disabilities. And so they were solving a problem that was close to them. And that's co-creation. Conscience. Ethical considerations such as fairness, privacy, and safety, respect, cultural, and respect must guide all AI and ICT decisions. So this is something that we have to emphasize at this point. In terms of where we are right now, so what is the current landscape of technologies that are currently being used by children and teachers? Really, we have 3 groups and a 4th one that is innovation. The first group being mainstream supports, and I think we're not surprised by this. There are so many things that we can now do with tablets and PCs and laptops and even mobiles that are currently being used to support these children. Text-to-speech, captioning, emojis, Google Keep, right? Kahoot, we had an example with that and how it was used for physics. So these are currently very much being used. Then we have assistive and AAC tools, so things that are being more specifically designed with something specific in mind. Today, Professor Dana will speak to us about the Marvok app. Sharon will mention Clicker 8. Easy Read came from Austria. And then we have other things like transition planning apps. Yes, AI and adaptive tools, they are being used. ChatGPT, Copilot, personalized feedback systems. So these are being used. Innovative tech, social robots like Now and Emma, and today Dr. Paulina will speak to us about that. VR and AR learning environments, yes, they are being used. These are still pretty much on the innovative kind of space because of cost and affordability, and we'll talk about that. The mainstreaming effect. So this is something that also came up in our research, that we have tools that involve text-to-speech and word prediction, which evolved from specialist assistive technology, but have now become universal. Thank you, Chris. I see you've got your thumbs up, right? Because this was so important. That we have technology and tools that began by being used for a few and now have become available to everybody. And so they've become universal technology. And this seems to be something that we are seeing as a trend. Another example was the use of AAC, that in some classrooms we are seeing that AAC is available for any child to just pick up and use. And if they want to use it, it's okay. And so therefore it becomes universal. What we're seeing here is much more that inclusive design can benefit everyone. And when we do that, we find that accessibility is improved. We have more of those built-in features. Children can just access these, and so can teachers. Affordability is improved. But robots, VR, AR, these remain costly. And in fact, we found very few instances where these were being used actually in mainstream, but we had some good examples of them being used in more specialist or project type settings. Cultural fit, still weak. Many products imported without local adaptation. This was something that came across the board. We have a lot of products designed for use in English language and not many for others. Few tools designed for teachers themselves. This was a huge gap in the research. Lots of focus on tools being designed for children, not many tools being designed actually to support teachers to include children. And this is definitely one area that needs to be addressed moving forward. So our key challenges at this point when it comes to AI and ICT. We have a gap between technology availability and actual classroom use. More than one person said to me, I know the technology is being bought, but I know it's not being used in the classrooms as it could be. Limited teaching-facing products and training. So maybe one of the reasons why these technologies are not being used comes back down to teacher training. But we also have the other issue of, are there many products that support teachers to actually include children? Cost and scalability of robotics and advanced AI. This is definitely a challenge at the moment. And the last one would be language and cultural adaptation that remains inconsistent. Because if I've bought a robot in Bulgaria and I have to go around trying to customize this for this language, that's going to take a lot of time. And will teachers be able to do that? Another question. So therefore, that is still an issue. And it's still an issue in Europe where we have many text-to-speech engines. 4 key messages moving forward. We need to co-create with teachers, families, and learners. We have found some very interesting examples of what people are doing, and a lot of it was co-creation. The challenges come when we speak to teachers, families, and we observe and actually talk to learners themselves. Build capacity so teachers feel confident using AI and ICT. We need to ensure conscience. We must be ethical. We must understand that ethics in AI when it comes to children is not the same as adults, and we need to be very aware of this. And finally, we need to maintain consistency between policy and classroom realities, because we can write lovely policies, but actually what happens in the classroom can often be a different reality. Thank you so much. That's my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing because now I want to introduce 4 panelists. I'm very pleased that these people agreed, not panelists, 4 speakers actually, who are going to make a short presentation. And I'm very happy that they've all agreed to do this. The first one is Sharon Borg-Schembri. She'll be talking to us about inclusive classroom implementation of literacy supports. And it's very nice that we have a practitioner here who can tell us something about something that is real and that she's experienced. She's talking to us from Access Now 360 in Malta. I'm going to introduce all 4 of them straight away. After this, Professor Dana Altani, she will be talking to us about the MAVOC application for children with autism. Her role is with ASENS Center in Qatar. This will be followed by Dr. Paulina Svetskova from the Institute of Robotics and the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences in Bulgaria. And she will be talking to us about how we can use robots to assist learning and telling us a little bit about some research that they've been doing with some collaboration with therapists. And finally, we have Chris Bouguet. He's an assistive technology specialist for Loudoun County Public Schools, another practitioner, a speech and language therapist, the same as me. He's going to talk to us about mainstream applications and how they can support school-wide digital note-taking. So Sharon, I give the floor to you first.
Thank you. So I'll share my presentation. So what I'm going to present about is a case study, as Dr. May described this shows how digital technologies can support literacy in a classroom. And this is a case study within a mainstream classroom in Malta. So in fact, I'm going to present Max, who is a 10-year-old boy studying in a mainstream school. He has dyspraxia, sensory processing differences, developmental language disorder, and dyslexia. And as you can see, this learner really have a lot of difficulties, which does affect learning. And therefore, special strategies needed to be implemented within the mainstream school so that he can access learning. And we're going to look at those elements as well. And these overlapping needs affected his ability to read, spell, and write independently. So let's go with the before picture, understanding the participation barriers. So the classroom challenge, despite some interventions that were being implemented, looking at handwriting programs from the occupational therapists in order to support his development of his handwriting, to try to improve the letter formation, the organization of the handwriting. But that was still, despite that intervention, the handwriting was still slow and illegible. There was also interventions like phonological programs, reading programs, but still he was having difficulties with reading, and spelling was very inconsistent, and this was causing a lot of frustration, low confidence, and a heavy reliance on adult support for all writing tasks. So Meg's difficulty in writing independently, mainly due to spelling difficulties, meant he couldn't participate fully in class, demonstrate his knowledge in exams, or most importantly, express his own ideas. And I think this is really an important aspect, because writing is not about just filling worksheets, but it's also about, I think the most important thing is about the ability to learn the skill to be able to share your ideas. So the approach used was a stepped approach, and starting with using actually low-tech technology in terms like a scaffold. So beginning with a simple portable word wall, and this being also demonstrated in the picture, in the first picture, the word wall is at the back. And this actually has built a lot of confidence and gave him an immediate tangible tool for spelling. When we implemented the word wall, we saw a big difference. The Max was no longer getting frustrated, and he was using it to support his spelling when he was writing. And in the word wall, we were adding new words that he was learning as we go along. Step 2 was transitioning to the high tech. So the idea of the portable word wall was kind of a word bank, and then moving towards teaching him the use of word prediction. Once he was able to spell, especially the first 3 letters, he was able to move to also using the word prediction on a laptop. So really moving from physical support to powerful ICT support. We use Clicker 8 for this purpose, because it supported both the word bank, but also it has an inbuilt word prediction, which was very helpful for him to use. And this step 3 was independent output, achieved independent participation in class, writing full paragraphs, and even taking exams with these tools. And that was really the important outcome, that this learner was able to move towards starting to write independently. So the essential foundation, I would say, in all of this was collaboration and continuity. Both the family were, the Max parents were partners throughout the entire process. They were invested in this, and they reinforced strategies at home and bridged resources gaps, ensuring continuity and accelerating progress. And when the resources was not available in the school, they provide the resource. Initially, Clicker 8 was not accessible, and they had bought a license themselves, but then the school also provided use of Clicker 8. And together with collaboration from the school, from the educators and the parents, together with the multidisciplinary team, which was involved, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, psychologists, INCO, and educators, together all have their shared responsibilities, and all of them together guided this process from start to finish. So collaboration was, and I would say, a very important aspect in all of this. So the AI and ICT innovation. So we have a combination of low-tech with high-tech AAT. And I think here I would like to stress that although we think that innovation is maybe we might think that it's about grabbing the latest technology, we cannot not forget that low-tech has still a place in all of this and can also be an important part of innovation as well, within inclusive education. And I've even from other case studies and through my practice, a combination of different strategies sometimes is the way forward. The use of AI-driven tool, word prediction, and text-to-speech acts as a cognitive scaffold, reduces frustration, and allows the learner to focus on what he wants to say. Designing learning experiences that are flexible, personalized, and learner-centered. And I think this really ties with what Dr. was presenting with the 6 Ps and the 4 Cs, the importance of a learner-centered, child-centered. So our designs, the way we are designing our learning processes has to be really child learner-centered, and has that flexibility in order to be able to adapt to the needs of the particular learner that we are working with. So, key takeaways. I cannot stress enough the supportive team. A collaborative team and family partnership are the foundation. The tech removes barriers to participation, but it's not the whole solution. And I think this was well represented by the model, by the 6 Ps and the 4 Cs. Low-tech complements high-tech. This case proves how low-tech is not obsolete. The simple word wall was a vital bridge that built confidence and complemented the latter, in introducing towards advanced ICT and AI use. AI as an enabler. Practical AI like word prediction, text-to-speech is a powerful enabler for inclusion, providing equitable access to literacy.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you. That was very interesting. Sorry about that. I am now going to move on to Professor Dana from Qatar. Dana, would you like to share?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Dr. May. So I would like to start by thanking you sincerely on this very great opportunity. My name is Dina Al-Thani. I'm an associate professor at the College of Science and Engineering at Hamad bin Khalifa University here in the state of Qatar. I also co-founded a center that focuses on addressing challenges faced by children with autism in learning setting. And I'm excited to be here because I can see many projects that are of potential to collaborate. So ASENS Center is basically a research center of excellence where we aim to develop technology and couple technology with AI to support children with autism in learning settings, in particular in assessment aspect of the learning. We work closely with different stakeholders, including the parents, the community, teachers, therapists, and of course the children within the spectrum. The aim is really to kind of support the initiatives within the country and beyond. Can you see my second slide now?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So in today's presentation, I will go through a Marbook application, which is an application we co-designed with speech therapists and teachers at a local center in Qatar. The idea is to make the learning experience for children more engaging. So the project started back in 2018, and it took us like almost 5 to 6 years to really have it up and running in a center. It received many grants from local entities, whether it's a research grant or an innovation grant. And it took us basically a few phases to establish really the working the working basically a prototype. So the first phase was for us. You're seeing my slide changing, right?
Yes.
That's good. So in 2019, we started the first session of conducting interviews and co-design workshops with teachers. That was followed by building a prototype and then revisiting the center and establishing again these workshops to evaluate the prototype itself. And then we spent 2-3 years to improve the prototype, and now happily it is functional and running and used by a center of supporting children with disabilities, intellectual disabilities, including severe cases of autism, meaning nonverbal and behavioral challenges cases. So in the final phase, we wanted, so in the phase 1 to 3, we were testing just with teacher. And phase 4, we said, oh, let us test it with students. And we spent the last 2 years testing it with students, and happily we got some very good results. The work is actually published in many venues around the world. So what I wanted to present today is the experience we had when testing the technology with the children. Some of the ideas we've had in the co-design workshops with teachers and specialists and parents were really their point of view. We wanted to see whether this will materialize in action with the children. And in fact, it is, but we also discovered many interesting aspects within this journey. So we tested the application with basically 9 children on the spectrum. Some are Arabic speakers, some are English speaker, and some are bilingual. It was a single subject design, meaning that we would test the baseline with the same child and do the intervention, and then have the post test with the same child and compare basically the performance before and after the intervention. So this is some basically screenshots of the app in which the child were interacting with. We use augmented reality coupled with an avatar that we design again with teachers and parents, an engaging avatar that speaks to the child and take the child throughout the journey. We engage also a local artist to draw this avatar. So we conducted this basically intervention with the children based on basically a full schedule of different weeks, where every week we introduce a separate activity, testing the baseline and pre and post test, just to see basically that whether the child basically gaining something from this learning activity, and also to facilitate their engagement. So this is the setting where we would conduct in a local center here in Qatar, which actually also funded part of this project. And interestingly, some of our observation, we noticed that kids would love to engage more with the app. So they would come the next day with their toys. For example, here we can see Angry Bird toy, where the child will put it in front of the screen. So we discover behaviors that we were not basically thinking about or not even designing for. And I guess that's the beauty of testing with the real participant, because then you see where can the engagement happen and how. And we can see also that the app really enhanced their engagement and made them more interested in the learning activity. For example, in the image in the middle, you can see that they're trying to put the crown, which is a VR object, on the head of the teddy bear, which is actually an actual object. We also printed cards where they can scan to learn letters. We then saw some children trying to basically map the augmented reality letter with the actual letter in the car, or even try to hold the augmented reality object. So these kind of observations were really enriching for us for our next phases of design. These are some videos. You can see like they kept moving and seeing what interaction they would get. In terms of the results, we've noticed that in terms of learning, the performance is higher in the pre and post test. In the majority in 8 of these 9 children, the vocabulary retention, which was also measured before and during and after. It was because we've had like a, so we stopped for in the end for 2-3 weeks, and then we came again. So we wanted to test the retention. And we also noticed that there are individual variants. I think that drives us to think about personalized learning, and that's actually our next phase of this application, to design personalized curriculum for every child. So yeah, that's a small demo I've had. So then you can scan the card, or you could just use the keyboard. And the design of the screen was really done by the teachers, the speech therapist, in which they ask us to put the robot on the right-hand side. And I don't know if you've noticed, there was a photo in the left-hand side. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm sorry for the technical glitch in the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dana. This is very interesting. We're now going to move on to Paulina. She's going to talk to us about some robot-assisted learning project that she's working on. Paulina, off you go.
Hello, dear organizers, dear Dr. May, dear colleagues. It's great pleasure and honor to me to take part in this UNESCO webinar. I'm really grateful to Dr. May for her invitation. I highly appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. May. I will share now my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes. It's Paulina.
Okay. So I'm Paulina Tsutkova, assistant professor at the Institute of Robotics, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. The Institute of Robotics, the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, is leading national scientific institution integrated into the European research area. We conduct fundamental research that lead to innovative technologies and inventions. Today I'm going to talk about our innovative platform, which we developed this year and which will be free and open source. It is called ATLOC, and it is related to the integration of assistive technologies in speech therapy for children and adolescents. So I work at the department Interactive Robotics and Control Systems. We integrate different innovative technologies such as social assistive robots to create therapeutic human-robot interactions. And we successfully collaborate with the Logopedic Center at the Southwest University in Blagoevgrad for therapy sessions with children with communication disorders, autism, ADHD, and developmental language disorders. Something more about our ATLOC platform. So the ATLOC platform was developed to integrate advanced assistive technologies, social assistive robots, virtual reality, and conversational AI into speech and language therapy for children with communication disorders, as I mentioned, ADHD, developmental language disorders. Also, using a Google Walkly-based visual programming interface, therapists can design interactive and playful therapy sessions without advanced programming skills. The platform was piloted in real therapy sessions at the Logopedic Center of Southwest University in Blagoevgrad, offering a flexible approach to embedding high-tech supports in speech and language therapy. Our target learners were 20 children from kindergarten to primary school. The duration of the experiments was 6 months. We conducted 1 experiment per month, and the duration of our sessions was around 30 minutes. The technology which we used was Walkly-based programming environment, social assistive robots, including Now, Forehead, EMU, which is a custom-built expressive robot, and DoubleTree telepresence robot, conversational AI powered by ChatGPT, and BGGPT, which is the Bulgarian version of ChatGPT, combined with speech recognition and text-to-speech from Microsoft Azure and Google. I'd like to emphasize that the prompts and the responses were carefully analyzed and edited if needed by speech and language therapists and IT specialists. Accessibility features included the QR code interaction for nonverbal children and multilingual AI capabilities for speech, text. This is a picture of the graphical user interface of the platform. You can see on the left are the technologies, mainly the robots, plus virtual reality and 360-degree virtual tours. There is also a section report. And you can see the now robot category currently open on the canvas. Therapists can create scenarios with blocks on the principle drag and drop. And here you can see a picture taken during our therapy sessions. This is a 5-year-old boy with developmental language disorders engaged in a vocabulary building activity with the now and forehead social robots during a playful scenario for transport tools guided by a speech language therapy using the ATLOG platform and the Logopedic Center. What did the results of our experiments show? So therapist feedback indicated strong usability and acceptance with high system usability scale around 74%, and the technology acceptance model measures of usefulness and ease of use rated also highly, around 63%. What were the results regarding children's attitudes and outcomes? Children's learning outcomes included improved vocabulary, turn-taking, comprehension, and reduced communication anxiety. Engagement increased due to the playful and interactive scenarios with the robots. Observations also highlighted more confident participation in the therapy with early evidence of transferable gains in social communication. So how can our platform support inclusive education? ATLOG has strong potential to evolve from a therapy-specific tool into a broader educational platform that supports inclusive classroom strategies and school-wide practices. Its modular visual programming interface and multimodal assistive technology integration make it especially well suited into school-wide practices. How can it support inclusive education in particular? New predefined graphical blocks can be tailored to different learning styles, for example, auditory, visual, and embodied learning. QR code and speech synthesis features can support both verbal and nonverbal teachers. They can use ATLOG to design different interactive lessons across various subjects like language, for example, storytelling with SARS and AI-generated narratives, mathematics, for example, robot-led problem-solving games with real-time feedback, music, robot-led games for guessing the musical instrument. Here you can see some publications related to the use of assistive robots in speech and language therapy. And I will finish with a photo again from our therapy, one photo taken from our therapy session, during our therapy sessions. And some of our project, some of the members, main members in our project team. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Paulina. That was really interesting. Your final slide, where you have so many different kinds of professionals collaborating together, is really
Yes.
what it's the essence of how we move forward, isn't it? We have to all be collaborating. Final one goes back to Chris now, and Chris is going to give us something practical. Thank you very much, Chris. If you'd like to share.
Thanks for having me, everybody. Here's my slides. Let's go up there. How's that working for everybody? Can we all see it?
No. Oh, yes, we can now.
There we go. It just took a second. I'm also going to put the slides in the chat. I share my slides, so feel free to use these, and you'll see my next slide has my contact information. If you want to reach out, there's my email and all the different things that I do. Like that great introduction at the beginning, Dr. May, that I work for Loudoun County Public Schools, which is in the Northern Virginia area. And my background is speech language pathology. And I support about 100 public schools as the assistive technology specialist with a team of about 9 people that fan out across those schools. And I've been doing it. I intentionally did not shave today so you could see how old I am, because I've been doing it for a while. And when you see you're doing it for a while, you recognize some patterns exist. And so I wanted to tickle your brain here for a second and ask you if you can find the commonalities between touchscreens and, at least in our neck of the woods, flexible seating, word prediction, voice dictation, on-demand video content, and computers at your seats. And there's probably some more examples too, but all of these things have something in common. And I like to think that this is like a little riddle for educators to solve, because they all work with something. Many educators work in this with many of these technologies, but they don't often think about how they integrate together or what the pattern is. And here's the answer: is that if you were to if we were doing this webinar 15 or 20 years ago, many of the things here that are displayed here, touch screens, word prediction, flexible seating, Sharon as an occupational therapist, many of these things would have started out as for a student with a disability, like Dr. May said in the during her section at the beginning, and then has blossomed to be something that we use for the masses. And I'm going to share an example here in a moment of how this works, a practical story of how this happened for one student that blossomed for an entire school around note-taking. But if you were to go back in time, touchscreens used to be a thing on big monitors for computers where you'd use a mouse to control the computer. And if someone had trouble controlling that mouse or interacting with the computer, we might put something called a magic touch window over the screen, and so they could touch it with their fingers. When we had students that weren't necessarily sitting in their seats or having trouble sitting in their seats, you might call someone like an occupational therapist out to ask, hey, what can we do to help them with their sensory system so they can stay regulated and stay seated? And then we realized, well, wait, movement is just good for learning. What if we built it so that they can bounce around and they can move? And what if we did that for many students? And at least in my area, a lot of the elementary schools have moved to seating where it's more flexible. Word prediction started out as specialized software. Co-writer was something we used for a long time, but it was specialized for only individual students would get it. And now it's built into our Gmail. If you use Gmail, you're probably used to using your pinky to hit the tab to enter in the text. It's on cell phones. How many people do you know, when they're talking into their phone, use the little microphone to create their text and send a text message? That used to be very expensive software, and it still exists, called Drag and Naturally Dictate. And even if we were using Microsoft built-in tools, it would take a lot of time to train those sorts of systems so that it could be useful for the students. And now it's something we do. It's built into ChatGPT. It's built into our interfaces on our phones. What started out for students with disabilities blossomed to be something for the masses. Who were the first students to really embrace video as a way of learning? Before Khan Academy and before YouTube was a thing, teachers who supported students with disabilities were making videos to show to students so they could watch it again, they could pause it, they could scrub and move along the video. And who were the first, well before we had a pandemic and we went, many places went, they were able to provide technology to more students. Students with disabilities had computers at their seats. And I could go on and on with examples. High contrast is now many developers in their app or their applications use dark mode. And dark mode is just a form of high contrast. And so I could go on and on with examples, but the pattern that exists is that over time, when you think about how any educational institution can organize their resources, there's resources that are available to anyone. We call those tier 1 supports. There's resources that only a few kids get or a group of kids get, and that is called tier 2 resources. And then tier 3 is, well, this individual student has these individual needs. Let's spend time and our energy in giving them those individual needs and showing them how to use it, individual tools and showing them how to use it. But the pattern exists that what happens is that over time, things that aren't really mainstream eventually become mainstream over time. And once you recognize that pattern, you can stop letting this be a secret, and we can start using it to design our instruction and choose where we're putting our resources. So in the United States, we call it accommodations, but things that individual students might need so they can access their education. But over time, those things that are accommodations eventually become tools for the rest of us. So in one quick example here of note-taking, we had a student in a high school that was had some learning difficulties, and on top of her learning difficulties, she also had cancer. And when she went to her high school science teacher and said, I'm having trouble handwriting my notes, I'm having trouble then going back and reading my own handwriting, is there a way that I can take these notes digitally? And the teacher was like, I don't know how to take notes digitally. I've only ever done it on paper. And so she met with someone like me, and that's me, showing her a mainstream tool that's been around for about 12 years now, at least in the United States, and that's called Google Keep, which is an online note-taking tool, and showed her how we already have access to this. All the kids in the building have access to this. All the teachers have access to this tool because we provide the Google suite of tools, and she had never heard of it, never seen it before. But when I showed her, she had this idea, well, wait, I could use this for my own note-taking as an adult, but why don't I just show this to all of the students? Yes, this one student needs it, but why don't I show it to every student? And then, to Sharon's point, it can become their choice. If they want to handwrite their notes, they can handwrite their notes. If they'd like to take their notes in Google Keep, they could take their notes in Google Keep. And so she did a little presentation to show all the students what Google Keep was now that she knew about it. And she would encourage the students to say, when your notes, feel free to use Google Keep. And so as a note-taking application, it started to spread, not just for that one student, but other students started to use it, other students with different needs. And then from there, this one student didn't feel so isolated, like they're the one just has to use this different thing where everyone else was doing something different. It's now just a choice for anybody. And then that spread from just that individual classroom and that science teacher to other teachers in the building and other students in the building going, well, wait, if you're using it in that classroom, can I use it in my math class? And can I use it in my whatever class? And it would spread beyond there. And then, of course, students and colleagues go for beyond schools. They talk to other colleagues and other friends and peers in other schools, and it spread from there. So again, what started out with the needs of one student, a tier 3 support, became something that the masses used and continue to use to this day. And so my sort of culminating thought here is, what do we do with this information now that we know things can flow in that direction? And I think the big idea, the takeaway here, is that those accommodations, those special things that we do for students with disabilities, we can start thinking about, well, what if those became mainstream? What if it was an accident that happened? What if we intentionally designed it to be that way? Thought about what resources are we currently using that are tier 3 and make them tier 1. And so there's my contact information and other ways to get involved.
Thank you so much for that, Chris. Really interesting presentation. And yes, how can we use these tools for all children? Doesn't have to just be for the one child. Okay, we are running a bit late. So just for everybody who's now in the panel, which is everyone who's just spoken, plus one more person who I'll introduce in a minute, just want to be able maybe to keep your responses a little bit shorter. The additional person on this panel will be Dr. Neslihan Champolacha. I hope I said this correctly.
Yeah, it's close.
And thank you. Right. And I am going to kick off with the first question. Anybody has questions, please put them in the Q&A. That's being moderated by Janet. So the first question that we want to discuss is, what counts as innovation in inclusive practice? And I'm going to start with Sharon on this one, but all panelists can obviously contribute. Sharon, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, I think even from what we've heard, I think I would say that innovation in inclusive education is about rethinking how we design learning. And I think it's about using obviously what the tools that we have and being innovative in the way we are using them. In order to make learning accessible, like Chris was saying, like, okay, if this tool, I'm going to use it with this particular person because it's required to support, but can we use it for all the learners that we are working with? And it's also a combination of so it's about these improving our practices, and I think it's a process. It is something that we are going to say, okay, now we're going to do innovative, inclusive education at this point. But I think it's something that we keep on working, trying to improve our practices using the technologies that we have. It could not be only advanced technology, but as I also described, we can use also low technology. And I think in all of this, so using pedagogical innovation and the technologies that we have inside together with the people, because those are the people that are going to implement it, the educators, the therapists, and the family. And the way that we can design this process can help to be innovative.
Innovation isn't just about the products or the tools, but it's about how people use them, who uses them. Does anyone else want to add anything to that conversation?
I do. I would like to say,
Chris.
I think innovation can start with students with disabilities. Again, thinking about, well, what are their needs? And then if we help come up with what will help them, it's often going to help everybody. And so innovative practices often start with students with disabilities. Again, that learner at the center.
Yeah.
So
okay, moving on from this.
I think I can add something. And also, yeah, that makes teachers to think about what can I do and how can do my job easier. So I think teachers can also start the same thing at the same point. So I agree.
This is really interesting, Neslihan, because what you're doing is thinking a little bit about that gap, which I identified in my presentation, and that is teachers and what can be used to support them to be more inclusive.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe I can add one more sentence. So for data collection, especially ABA kind of teaching. So when we do ABA therapy, so the problem is tracking the data. And our center teachers came together and then they came up with the idea to track the data by creating a mobile app and embedding the whole curriculum into that app. And also taking the data into that app. And they came up with an idea for a whole system. So now they are using it fluently. So I think the problems are creating other problems, and also they make us sit down and think about how to solve them. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neslihan. Just going to move to the second question, Paulina. What conditions do you think are required for us to be innovative in AI and ICT?
Okay, so based on my experience and work in cost action in which I participated, advancing social inclusion through technology and empowerment, I was trained in a Delphi surveys and conducted such an international survey. It was related to perspectives on assistive technologies for autism and intellectual disabilities. There were 284 participants from 31 European countries. The survey contains several projections in terms of the expectations of the stakeholders about the role, access, and use of assistive technologies in the field of education, in the fields of education, politics, employment, technology, and society. For each projection, there was a question about what the biggest challenge for implementing the proposed scenario will be: economic, political, technical, or social. It turned out that the biggest challenges were economic in the first place and political in the second place. That indicated that financial concerns played a significant role in the development, implementation, and adoption of assistive technologies. In addition, strong regulatory backing are required to ensure the rights and effectiveness of the initiatives related to assistive technologies. Our studies show that financial concerns play a major barrier, which applies broadly to AI and ICT innovation. So to foster that innovation, some economic conditions are essential. I think long-term investment from governments, EU programs, and private sectors. For example, funding for research, development, and testing. Also funding mechanisms to ensure access across different regions and institutions. Also, I think that there should be clear laws and standards that govern the safe, ethical, and equitable use of AI and ICT. Policies that protect user rights, especially in vulnerable populations. National and international coordination, which lines priorities and reduces fragmentation, and universal policies that encourage the adoption of innovative technologies in education, healthcare, and public service.
Thanks for that very detailed answer. Right. And a lot of it is actually in agreement with what I presented. So that's very interesting for me. I'm going to move to the third question because, as I said, we're very tight on time now. So if everyone can keep their responses a little bit short. Chris, teachers and therapists, how are they adapting mainstream technologies for mainstream learners? What's happening for neurodiverse learners? Sorry.
Well,
very fast.
I want to focus on the word adaptive. Again, one, nothing new. When we collaborate together, different disciplines together can focus in on having better outcomes, right? But when one person makes a decision as opposed to a team, we often squirrel off into things that don't have lasting outcomes. And the second thing with adaptive, just like I said before, we see stories over and over again. We're working right now with a group of occupational therapists to help come up with what are the tools that will be most useful in our career and technical education classes, meaning cooking. When you're learning how to cut and you're learning how to heat things up and you're learning how to measure, let's not think of them as adaptive tools, just what are the universal tools, and then we can make adjustments from there. And the OTs especially know how to do that. So let's lean into their expertise.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm going to move to the fourth question. That's for Neslihan. What professional development and support do you think is required to sustain these innovations? What do we need to do?
So I will shorten my answer. And I think the first thing is just not one-time technical support or professional development. It should be ongoing. And also it should include pedagogy. So if they know technology, if they are not really sure what to use, what instructional techniques to use with the technology, it fails and they cannot continue, and then it's not sustainable for teachers and for students. And also other thing is design-based research, including teachers and their needs, and take into account their opinions. So I think in the long term, it sustains their use of technology. The last thing is starting technology education for pre-service teachers. So changing the teacher preparation programs and adding hands-on activities for pre-service teachers in their practical. Thank you.
Thank you, Neslihan. The last one is for Dana. It's about what lessons from lower middle income countries can inform global inclusion strategies.
So I think one of the main message I would say is co-creation, really. Even in a strategic policy making, actually most importantly as well, in a strategic policy making level, co-creation becomes kind of pivotal there. You need to bring everyone on the table to make such a strategic decision, including the parents themselves, the children as well, the practitioners, the scientists, and of course the policymakers themselves. So that's a key message that I could even see through the discussion today. So that's my answer.
Would completely agree. So it is now nearly 20 past. We have time for maybe one or two questions. Jeanette, I don't know if there are any that you think we can discuss further.
No, because almost all the questions which were in the chat I have answered, because they were about the recordings of today's seminar, and also some people asked for the translation into French, but I think that that could be available automatically. I mean, the subtitles will be available when we upload the recording of today's webinar. That's it.
Yeah.
Not to the panelists. All the technical questions.
Okay, so I think I would like to say thank you to all the panelists. I don't know if anybody has any final comment they'd want to make about what they heard today, or anything that they just want to add at this point. Sounds professional.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this invitation. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure being on
Thank
board.
you.
Thank you, May, for all the work.
Me too.
Thank you.
Okay. I rushed you because I thought there might be questions, but there wasn't any. Right. Looks like you've answered everybody's questions. I do want to say this. Yeah. I just want to say one thing. Second webinar, we will be focusing a lot more on policy and systems. So we're looking at the other end of things. Today, we focused on the practical side of things, what's actually happening in classrooms and with educators. The second webinar will move on to policies and systems. So anyone who's here today, it would be lovely if you can come to the second webinar as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. May. Thank you, dear experts and dear participants. Let me say some final concluding words for our online webinar. First of all, we highly appreciate the systemic approach which is proposed by Dr. May, and which includes basic understanding of some principles like 4 P's and 4 C's approaches, as well as recommendations provided by our experts and even expert team for the next steps. It is important not only for policymakers, but also for educators, for teachers, for practitioners who will follow up with these recommendations. Secondly, we are very grateful to all experts from different parts of the world who contributed to our project with their examples of advanced practices and who shared great examples and presentations today. Really, a great appreciation for it. Thirdly, we had a wonderful panel discussion with experts, while our participants were able to provide some questions, and we will be still online in touch with our participants. We're very grateful that our participants were able to get fresh ideas directly from high-level professionals, not from artificial intelligence. So thank you for this real discussion, real important discussions. And let me, I would say, summarize a little bit our discussion today. As a prerequisite is to enable the rights of learners with disabilities, particularly with autism, ADHD, as well as learning difficulties. There are some important issues which were mentioned by our experts during today's discussion. They are access to appropriate and inclusive technology solutions which support flexible, personalized learning approaches is an imperative. Then, technologies support truly inclusive curricula and reasonable accommodations to meet individual needs and enable all learners to access participation and achievement opportunities. An effective inclusive ICT and AI infrastructure incorporating needs assessment, procurement, installation, maintenance, training and support, which promotes innovation in inclusive education practice. And I think that teacher training, support, and networking are cornerstones for the success of all initiatives. And finally, active and ongoing dialogue with stakeholders, including teachers, school leaders, as well as students with autism and ADHD learning difficulties and their families, will support design innovations and promote inclusive digital ecosystem. So thank you so much again for all your ideas and examples. We feel really empowered and full of insights and ideas. I thank you for this inspiration, dear colleagues, dear experts. And as Dr. May has already mentioned, we will have a second webinar in 1 week on 27th of November, and we all welcome you. We ask you to take part in it again in 1 week. So thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.